Hey guys, today I want to talk to you about how much respect or lack thereof you're getting from your wife, your kids, and how much being active plays into that. First, let me define what I mean by being active. I'm not talking about being ripped, having a six pack and all that, looking like some kind of Arnold Schwarzenegger. But I'm talking about at least appearing and having the movement of somebody that generally takes care of themselves. And in addition to that, someone who's not sedentary all the time, not being a couch potato, not slumped over with bad posture all the time. You want to be the opposite of that slumped over couch potato. You want to show your family, particularly you want to show your kids that you're active. If you're in a situation where your kids are walking all over you, your wife's walking all over you, if you're a man, your husband's walking all over you, if you're a woman, just in general, one thing that you have to rule out is, are you active? And you might not think it plays a big deal, but it does. When your kids walk into a room and see you, or when they most often think about you, do they see a sedentary person slumped over looking at their phone, maybe overweight, maybe obese, not willing to move or do anything? They just scream from a chair from a distance when something needs redirected. Because if people see that image over and over again, they're not going to respect you. And I got to be honest, we don't generally respect people in a seated position anyway. There's only one person that deserves full on respect from being in a seated position, and that's the Lord Jesus Christ, who's seated at the right hand of the Father, because he's already put in, let's just say, the most important work that's ever been done. But everybody else, if you're sitting there just slumped over and you're just going to demand respect from a distance or from a curled over position, it's not going to happen. It's going to be very, very difficult. You see, my kids would tell you, my wife would tell you that I'm on my feet constantly. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off, but I'm on my feet or I can snap up at a moment's notice. And physical proximity, spatial awareness, these are things I've talked about before, but even that shows that you're not playing around. So I know that if two of my kids are arguing or bickering, they know that dad's not going to be sitting in a lounge chair or a couch somewhere, either screaming or ignoring it, not doing anything because he's staring at his smartphone. No, he's going to get up, observe the situation, and if necessary, involve himself. That carries a lot of respect behind it because they know, oh, he's not just sitting on his butt barking orders and yelling. He's actually doing something about it. I'm telling you, look at all your relationships in general of where somebody just comes off as sedentary, not doing much. You have a little less respect for them, whether you're conscious of it, whether it's unconscious. That's just how we are. You know, we have something innate within us when we see somebody who either is in that lazy sluggard position or their general demeanor, their physique, their disposition suggests that they often spend a lot of time in that position. It's harder for us to garner respect for that person. That's why throughout pretty much all of history, people that were overweight or obese, and still today, it's just harder for them to get that upfront respect. Now, maybe after a good first impression or after a conversation, you can do that. And there are people that can filter through that from the get-go. But most people, the vast majority of us can't, because the first thought is, this person is 100 pounds overweight. They're in a slumped over, lazy position, and they just kind of sit there, especially if you see them sitting there and eating. And you think to yourself, this person doesn't even respect themselves. They don't respect their own body. They probably don't respect their own character. it's going to be hard for me to do so to the other person. That's just how we're generally wired. This is why, on the opposite side, people are generally more pleasant, more attracted, more generous, more open and conversational towards people that look like they're healthy or in good shape. Because deep down, whether we say it out loud or not, deep down, we're moving with the thought that this person really respects themselves. They take care of themselves. They, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's eating right, whether it's taking care of their finances, their household, whatever it might be, I respect them because they don't look sedentary and sluggish. So yeah, your positioning matters. How you present yourself matters. Your posture matters. And you can scream all you want at your kids to behave. And you can sit there and talk and vent to your wife all you want. But if you don't at least carry yourself with a base level of respect for yourself, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally as well, it's going to be very, very tough for you to gain respect. So my challenge to you is to evaluate yourself, everything from your physique to your diet to your sleep habits, your interactions, how you look to other people, your level of being sedentary. Look at all those things and ask yourself, do I present myself as somebody that demands respect? Ask yourself that. Because if you're not carrying yourself in those ways and you're carrying yourself in a sloppy light, you're going to have to work that much harder for people to respect you on a baseline. And what I see a lot of people do nowadays is they complain about it. They complain that the world is against them. Somebody's after them. Somebody doesn't want them to succeed. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. But complaining about it certainly isn't going to help. And it's not going to really win your favor. Because people will hear the words, but they won't see you really moving and being proactive to do something about it. If you're someone who's, I'll talk about weight for a second. If you're someone who's morbidly obese and it's because of lack of exercise, lack of proper nutrition, lack of be willing to make the difficult sacrifices to obtain a better physical condition, again, people first and foremost, they're going to lean towards a negative viewpoint of you, no matter what they say. And by the way, like all these people talking on, on commercials and stuff, advocating for it and saying it's okay, all this body positivity talk that you hear, a lot of times people are speaking out of their natural mode of thinking. They're overcompensating or they're trying to cover up their own demons. But deep down, most people without any sort of other influence will say that person is greatly overweight or they're not taking care of themselves, and I got a little less respect for them. That I'm just being honest with you guys. I'm just being straightforward. These things do matter. And if you take care of them, I'm not saying it'll cure all of your problems. Again, the first and foremost thing that you need to handle any of your issues, any of your problems, is to look towards Jesus Christ. Put on the full armor of God. Like it says in Ephesians 6, put on the full armor of God. That's the first thing that you need to do for any circumstance. Social, financial, spiritual, emotional, whatever it might be. But beyond that, and once we get down to the physical, the outward appearance, the superficial, don't sit around and be lazy. Don't be slumping over. Because your kids, and they shouldn't respect you. You're sitting on the sidelines yelling, barking, and every time they look over you, you're slumped over on a phone or you're too tired, they're not going to respect you. Oh, and I do want to say that as I get close to the conclusion here about showing yourself as tired. I've talked before in a previous video that parents, particularly men, you're not allowed to be tired. Okay, your kids should look over you and see that you're exhausted. So the person that's the breadwinner that holds down the household, if that person is exhausted and tired, well, you got to think, well, we're done for. You pay the bills, you do the work, you run the household and set the rules. If you're any kind of real man, that is. If you're tired, if you're exhausted, if this is too much for you, then the rest of us are done for. So please be careful with that. Any kind of language or demeanor that suggests to your kids, to your family, that you just don't have it anymore, and especially like the outward expression of that constantly, where do you go from there? Because you're already in a state of responsibility. And you might feel that way, but you can't go around saying, woe is me, complaining about it, because I tell you, you will lose even more respect. So keep these things in mind, guys. Reclaim the respect. If you've lost it because you haven't been following these habits, take care of yourselves so you'll be better able to take care of others around you. Peace. God bless.